For a long time, I thought something in my life was missing. Like I was waiting for the moment everything would finally make sense. But slowly I realized nothing was missing. There were just a few things life hadn't taught me yet. Sometimes the biggest shifts in our lives don't come from big events. They come from small realizations that quietly change the way we see everything. Over the past few years, there are a few lessons life slowly taught me about healing, peace, and self-trust. Lessons I couldn't understand earlier, even if someone had explained them to me. So today I wanted to share some of them. Maybe one of them will resonate if you're figuring things out too. For a while, I thought healing would happen quickly. Like once you understood what hurt you, everything would just click. You'd process it, learn the lesson, and move forward. But real healing doesn't really work like that. Some patterns take months to notice. Some feelings come back in slightly different ways. And sometimes you think you've moved past something until life brings it up again. And that used to frustrate me. I thought it meant I was doing something wrong. Like maybe I should be further along by now. But slowly I started noticing something. Even when the feelings returned, I handled them differently. I spoke to myself kinder. I stayed present instead of running away. And that's when it finally made sense. Healing isn't about how fast you move forward. It's about how gently you learn to stay with yourself along the way. Another realization that took me a long time to understand. Understanding yourself changes everything. I used to spend a lot of time trying to fix how I felt. Fix my reactions, fix my emotions, fix the ways certain things affected me. Like if I could just control myself better, then life would feel easier. But eventually I realized I was skipping an important step. I was trying to fix things before I even understood them. Before I asked myself why certain moments triggered me. Why some situations drained me. Why certain people felt safe while others don't. And the more honest I became with myself, the more things started making sense. My reactions weren't random. They were messages. My emotions weren't problems. They were information. And once I stopped fighting them, I could actually listen. And that's when growth finally started happening. Not from forcing change, but from understanding myself first. And once you start understanding yourself better, something else becomes clearer too. I tried to control everything. For a long time, I believed peace came from having control. If I planned everything carefully, if I anticipated every possible outcome, if I tried hard enough to make things work, life would finally feel stable. But the more I tried to control everything, the more exhausted I became. Because life keeps changing. People change, plans fall apart, unexpected things happen. And for a while, that uncertainty made me feel unsafe. like everything depended on my ability to keep things together. But slowly I started learning something different. Peace doesn't come from controlling life. It comes from accepting that some things were never mine to control. And once I stopped fighting reality, something surprising happened. Life didn't become perfect, but it did become lighter. When you stop trying to control everything, life starts feeling quieter. And that's when I started romanticizing the quiet parts of life. For a long time, I thought a good life had to look exciting. Busy schedules, big plans, always doing something. And when life slowed down, it felt like something was missing. Like maybe I wasn't living fully enough. But recently, I started noticing how peaceful the quiet parts of life feel. Morning coffee without rushing, long walks with nowhere specific to go, even simple moments like sitting with my thoughts on the sofa without needing to distract myself. And the strange thing is, these moments used to feel boring. Now they feel grounding. And I realized maybe happiness isn't always loud. Sometimes it looks like calm days that don't need to impress anyone. And the quieter life became, the more I started noticing happiness in smaller moments. For a long time, I believed happiness would arrive later, when life felt more stable, when the right relationship showed up, when everything finally worked out. So I kept waiting for the moment when things would feel complete. But slowly I started noticing something. Some of the happiest moments weren't big milestones. They were small things, laughing with a friend, a quiet morning, feeling proud of myself for something no one else even noticed. And it made me realize something important. Happiness isn't something life eventually delivers. It's something we learn to create in small, everyday moments. But somewhere along the way, I realized something else too. I had to discover who I was. Something no one talks about when life changes is how easy it is to lose track of yourself. You adjust to people, to situations, to expectations, and slowly you become the version of yourself that keeps everything running smoothly. But one day I realized I didn't recognize myself anymore. My preferences, my energy, even the things that used to make me happy. And that's when the real work started. Not fixing myself, but rediscovering myself. Trying new things again, spending time alone, really asking myself simple questions I haven't asked in years. And slowly I started recognizing myself again. And rediscovering yourself also means learning to trust your instincts again. For a long time, I ignored my intuition, that quiet feeling when something didn't feel right. I would explain it away, telling myself I was overthinking. Stay in situations longer than I should have because I didn't want to seem difficult, or because I hoped things would eventually feel different. And every time I did that, there was always a moment later where I thought, I knew this didn't feel right. That quiet voice wasn't fear, it was clarity. And now when that feeling shows up, I try to listen sooner. Not because I always know the answer, but because learning to trust yourself is part of feeling safe in your own life. Once I trusted myself more, the future stopped feeling as overwhelming. I used to spend a lot of time worrying about the future. What if things didn't work out? What if I made the wrong decisions? What if I ended up somewhere I was never meant to be? And those thoughts followed me everywhere, even during moments that were supposed to feel calm to me. But when I look back now, something surprising stands out. Most of the things I spent so much energy worrying about never actually happened. And the things that did happen somehow led me somewhere new. Not always easier, but always forward. And that's when I realized something. Life rarely unfolds the way we imagine that it will. But somehow, it still keeps moving. And growth itself ended up looking different than I imagined. I used to think growth would feel dramatic. Big breakthroughs, huge changes, moments where everything suddenly clicked. But lately, growth has looked different, quieter, like noticing something that used to upset me doesn't affect me the same way anymore. Or realizing I can leave a situation calmly instead of explaining myself for hours. No big announcements, no dramatic turning points, just small moments where I handle life a little differently than before. And sometimes that's how you realize you have grown. And maybe the biggest realization of all, I looked for safety everywhere outside of myself, in relationships, in routines, in the hope that something would finally make my life stable. Because when something outside of you feels secure, it's easier to relax. But life changes, people change, situations shift, and eventually I started building something different. Trust in myself. The ability to sit with difficult emotions without panicking. The belief that no matter what happens, I'll find a way through it. And finally, life started feeling safer. Not because everything became perfect, but because I stopped abandoning myself. Looking back, none of these realizations happened overnight. They came slowly through experience, through mistakes, and through learning to be more honest with myself. And maybe that's the most important thing I've realized so far. Life isn't something we suddenly figure out. It's something we understand little by little as we grow. So if you're still figuring things out, you're not behind. You're just in the middle of your own story.